When we feel stuck in our present, a lot of times it might be because we feel trapped by our past. We still feel captured by something that has happened in our past. And one of the most powerful tools I can teach you, show you, is that you have the power to rewrite your past. And just to be clear, I am not saying that this means that you're going to lie or you're going to sugarcoat, but that when we relook at our past and um, learn how to rewrite it in a way that serves us instead of oppressing us, instead of holding us back, instead of reminding us of our limitations and our faults and our flaws and the mistakes that we made, and how our future can never be great because of this mistake we made in our past. That's a terrible story. And if that's your story, I want to invite you to rewrite it. So this is how I, as a clarity coach, help my clients go into their past so that and retrieve the lessons from there, the golden moments, and see it in a new light in order to bless their future, in order to create a future that they are excited about. This is not therapy. This is coaching, and it's coaching from a better perspective. So, I want to show you how I do this. I want to share it with you, and in the hopes that it'll help you. And just to be super clear, you may not like this at all, but this idea came to me from the Bible. So my name is April Bragg, and I teach timeless truths to help women live, love, and lead in confidence. And we're doing a series right now called Made for More, and it's a Christian identity series. And so many times we kind of get a fatalistic viewpoint, or we get a flawed viewpoint of our identity, who we are becoming, who we are meant to be, the purpose for our lives. And so, this is why I want to show that we are made for more, no matter what our past is. But how do we deal with a past that feels like it is limiting us or holding us back? And so let's just dive in really, really quickly. So the two passages that I'd like to reflect on is in Psalm 90, verse 10. There is a verse that says, "We spend our days as a tale that is told," and that's the King James version. Other versions kind of say we are living our lives as a sigh. But then it goes on in verse 12 to say, "So teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts to wisdom." As in, our life, we could be living it as this predetermined, fatalistic, we just live and do the best we can, and then we die. Or we can see it as something that we have active participation in, and that whatever happened to us is not actually holding us back, it is setting us up. So, that is why I invite you to practice this. Practice this skill of rewriting your story, and you can rewrite it from a past perspective, or you can rewrite your future perspective, okay? And there are three simple steps that will help you in rewriting your story. Number one, see flaws as features and mistakes as moments. We look back to our past and sometimes we think, oh, well, that has happened and therefore I can no longer have this. I am divorced. I can no longer serve God is a big one in Christian circles. Um, I missed God's will. Therefore, I'm stuck on plan B. I missed plan A, plan B. Nope, that's fatalistic. That is not how it works. That is not seeing things through the lens of grace. We look at ourselves and we see all the flaws. I'm too impulsive, or I'm not disciplined enough, or I wasted so many years, or I should have done this when I thought about it 10 years ago. Oh, that comes up so many times. And we are seeing it as mistakes we made instead of moments. Moments that can be redeemed. Uh, Flaws that can also be seen as features. So many times we but we get trapped instead of doing that, instead of rewriting flaws into features or mistakes into moments, we get trapped by them. We're seeing them as that happened, done, end of story. Nope. No, no, no. So, step 1, practicing flaws as features and mistakes as just moments that are meant to teach us a lesson. Um, Something that you think is inherent about you, that it's a flaw, if it's created in you, it's actually a feature. Now, you may only be seeing the flawed aspect of it. Think about Peter. I always love using Peter as an example because Peter's just amazing. He's a big character in the Bible. And he's impulsive. I mean, this is the guy that when he got to go onto the Mount of Transfiguration and he saw Jesus with Moses and Elijah, he was overcome with awe. And instead of just like taking it in, he kind of like interrupts the moment. Like, oh, I know what we need to do. We need to build 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for you, one for you. And it's almost like at that moment, like the transfiguration kind of faded away. It's like, Peter, don't ruin the moment. Hush, take it in, enjoy it. But he had to do something. Peter's a man of action. When the priests were coming to arrest Jesus, Peter, a man of action, takes a sword, cuts off the servant's ear. Jesus took that moment to heal. When Peter denied Christ, that was his temptation to get stuck in the mistake. And that is why later, when Jesus was talking to all the disciples by the Sea of Galilee, he told Peter, just like Peter denied him 3 times, he told Peter 3 times, feed my sheep. He knew that Peter was stuck in a story of shame, and Jesus was redeeming it. Peter didn't even understand that part of his actions were prophesied, and God was using what he saw as a mistake as a moment in time for us to benefit from, to see a beautiful lesson. We can do this, not just with the Bible, not with the stories in the Bible, but we can also do this with our own lives. So go back. I invite you to step 1, go back and look at anything in your life that felt like it was a mistake and rewrite it as a moment. Change it, see it differently, see it as just part of the picture, not the whole frame. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, develop a deeper perspective. Now, we can do this 2 ways. We can develop it deeper, we can develop it higher. But what I mean by this is instead of only seeing it from our perspective, I invite you to see it from God's perspective. Joseph did this in Genesis chapter 50 when he said to his brothers, what you did, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good to bring to pass as it is this day to save much people alive. You meant evil against me. You were so jealous of me that you sold me into slavery and then lied about me to dad and said that I had died. And you meant it for evil. So he's not sugarcoating it. But obviously, Joseph has been thinking about this. He had probably had a lot of time to think during all those years in prison. And he realized this can make me bitter or this can make me better. and he chose to see God's hand in it, probably before God's hand was even revealed. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. God's working something out that I couldn't see, but now I can see. Develop a deeper perspective. You might have to do this from faith, as in, that looks horrible right now, and I don't see any benefit to it right now, but I'm going to trust that there is something there. So many times we are shaped by the things that we would not have chosen to have happened in our past. But we are a better person for it, as in we are aware and we have chosen to live our life differently than the way that something has happened to us in the past. And so the pain of our past has actually sometimes even unconsciously, unintentionally created a protectiveness in our present that we may not even be aware of. Look for those angles. Rewrite your story in a way that will serve you instead of enslaving you. So that's step number two. Oh, and there's a mistake that we make on step number two about rewriting our story. And that is sometimes we try to sugarcoat it. It's like we try to put the social media filter on it. You know, this went wrong and this went wrong and this went wrong, but God's always good still. And it's I always want to say when somebody does that, tell me specifically how God is good. Because that generalization, that coated blanket of, God's still good, even though, I'm very specific about how it's been terrible. That's what the world criticizes, and I think rightly so, as toxic positivity. So until we get specific about how God is always good, how God is making it good, the good that we can see from the very specific bad that we're currently see, there's no benefit in it. Okay? That's just us kind of ignoring it, sweeping it under the rug, trying to move past it without dealing with it. I see this a lot of times when people are trying to help other people who have been wronged. Well, yeah, 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 that's terrible, but, God's still good. God has a plan, and let's not rush people past their pain, okay? This is also why I'm just not keen on, um, celebrations of life when death is separation for us here on earth. It is sadness, and the Bible does say that we're supposed to mourn with those who mourn, weep with those who weep, and rejoice with those who rejoice. So even though we don't mourn as people who have no hope, as in, I do know that my loved one not here is with Christ. It doesn't mean that we're not sad and that we shouldn't be sad with the person who's sad. Let's not rush people past their grief. But we don't have to get trapped in the sadness because we have that other perspective. So it's not about closing our eyes to the bad and only seeing good all the time. It's actually having a deeper perspective, being able to see it from both sides. That is what creates wisdom. Oh, that just reminds me. Sometimes I have clients that, they think that having a positive mindset means just only thinking positive things. And so they do that even to the extent they don't prepare for the downside of something. Like imagine that you're investing in the economy and you only assume that the market is going to go up. And so you only time your investments for the market's only going to go up. It's only going to do good things. It's only going to be, and it's like, no, that's not wisdom. Your strategy needs to include the very real reality that the market goes up and down. Your strategy needs to include the very real reality that God sends sunshine and rain, that it rains on the righteous and and the I'm messing up that verse, but that there's both. Both things happen. And so we don't want to take a sugarcoating attitude, but we do want to deepen our perspective as in, and this is where the best stories get written. You're reading a story, and you're like, oh, this is terrible. And then plot twist, you realize that the perspective the author was writing was actually reversed. And what you thought was bad was good, and what you thought was good was bad. And the person that, you never saw it coming, but he's the murderer. Perspective change. Okay. But we're not saying only see glass half full, only see glass half empty. We're saying develop a deeper perspective. And I invite you to do that by borrowing God's perspective. And we know that all things work together for good to them who love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. And we're all called according to his purpose, by the way. So those that is how you develop wisdom. And so rewrite your story with a deeper perspective than what you've been seeing it. Okay, so that's step number 2. Step number 3, and that is, if I can read my writing here. Oh, write a sequel. As in, rewrite your future. So many times we're staying stuck in the past when we could be rewriting a sequel. So, because of what's happened to me in the past, what do I want to take from the past towards my future? This, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I think that this might be the biggest a difference that coaching has from therapy, in that coaching is therapy is, around, I think, developing a diagnosis. I've talked with my sister about this, and she's like, kind of like, well, the way things are shaped right now, there has to be kind of a diagnosis for there to be, for the insurances to pay for therapy. And I'm like, oh, that's so sad, because so many times labels can get us stuck. Whereas coaching, we're not looking for labels. Let's not get stuck in a label. And we're not getting trapped in the past. We're always like looking to what can we make the future better, and how can we use the past to make the future better? So we look at the past in service of the future, not as a time to, let's go in deep and let's relive the trauma and all that. But there's a beautiful way that when we understand it as a story, then we can see, oh, the past is not the end of the story. It is, I can make the future a positive sequel, a contrast to the past, or a furthering of the past. Or, I started out here, but look where I ended up, or this happened to me, and yet and it becomes this very big transformative arc. And this is this is where faith comes in. So many times we think of faith as, oh, these are the doctrines that I believe. No, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. As in, now faith, the present faith that I have now, is creating the future. Faith is the substance that the future is made of. So many times we kind of have dead like faith. And I can't even say it that way hardly, because it doesn't feel like faith should be dead. But as in, we've got, like, we're only seeing what's in the past. And so then we're only recreating that into the future. Whereas, what if it's going to be different? We're going to have different faith. So we're going to have imaginative faith. Okay. So, there's so much that I could say on this topic. I'm trying to decide which one to go with. Here's an example from my life. I went through a period of depression recently, and it was a shorter period than other times, thankfully, because also I have realized that um, it's just a feeling, but it is a feeling that is tied to maybe a thought or perspective or something that's happening. And I don't make it mean more than that. And so I'm a person with, very intense emotions, and I also have a very honed logic, so there's a point when I can like kind of like logically know this depression is just depression, it's just sadness, and that's fine. And I can kinda, like, step back and logically know it, but I was also like, "And why?" Because logically, my life is great. And I realized as I looked through this, and I just let it be there instead of being like, "This is something I need to solve now," because I have learned that the more urgently you need to solve a problem, sometimes the harder it gets to solve it. We get kinda rigid. We get locked into left brain thinking, and, when sometimes we need right brain holistic perspective to actually move forward. I'm learning so many fascinating things out of a book called The Master and His Emissary by Sir Ian McGilchrist, I think the name of the book is. Anyway, so I knew that the depression, there was a reason for it, and the reason would reveal itself, and I could just be patient with the process. And then all of a sudden, when I was journaling one day, it did. The reason I was depressed, y'all, was because overall, I was seeing the past as this vivid, full of life, meaningful story, like bright, vivid colors, like The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy goes over the rainbow, and all these stories and all this beauty. And when I turned my eyes and thought about the future, it was just black and white. It was bleak. There wasn't anything to feel enthusiastic about. And I realized, oh, well, that explains it. Of course, I would feel depressed when don't have a future that I'm enthusiastic about. Like that is a natural effect of that state of mindset, that mindset being. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, well, my first instinct was to like solve it. Like, well, we need to make a plan and we need to make a plan that we're excited for. But you don't just make a plan for your life, and follow it like, oh, okay, That's not how I do it. That's not how I teach clarity. Sometimes, and this is the reason why it happened, because for so much of my life there had been a very common plan, like I'm going to grow up, and then I'm going to go to college, and then I'm going to, perhaps meet a man, and then we're going to fall in love, get married, and then we're going to have children, and then we're going to raise those children, and then those children are going to go off, and that was the end of my story. And I had just lived all of my story. And my story, the parts that I had been imagining, all the future bride imaginings had run out. I had run out of the movie. It was time to write a sequel. And so I did. But I realized I don't have a very specific sequel to write. Now, I do know that my future is bright. I do know that my eternal future is guaranteed. And that gives me so much hope and joy and courage and um, peace. Great, great peace. But what do I want to do in the next season of life? And I couldn't quite see it. And instead of forcing a picture on it, I decided What if I just believed that my future is so bright, I can't see the details yet? It's overexposed. There's too much light in it. And as my eyes adjust to the brightness, I'll be able to see the details. So, in an instant, I went from thinking, "Oh, the future is kind of bleak, black and white, it's run out of, vision," to, "No, it's just so bright, I can't quite make out the details." And I'm excited to discover what they are. I'm enthusiastic about my future again, even if I don't have this list of exactly what it's supposed to look like. My perspective that my future is bright no matter what. That is the belief that is more powerful than the depression was. And let me just say this, the depression can come back anytime that the belief fades and the depression belief is stronger. This is why I don't take, for me, I don't take my emotional states as seriously. I use them to inform me, to make better decisions, to know when I need a better perspective. So, I just wanted to share that with you. That some of y'all, you are navigating, you're like, I see a future and it's bright. I just don't know quite how I'm going to get there. I could use some help. But others of you are like, the tape is kind of run out and I kind of need a new future and I can't quite see it yet, but I want it to be bright. And if that sounds like you, I invite you to book a clarity call. And I think that we could, one call might be able to really help you. And if you want to keep on working together, that's, we can talk about it at the end of the call. But, but clarity is not always knowing the plan ahead of time. Sometimes clarity is knowing knowing that you're going to like the plan no matter what it is. Knowing that you're going to like what's coming no matter what it is. Knowing that because the way and this is why I teach clarity can come from us knowing who we are, whose we are, and why we're still here. And part of my why I'm still here is not that I already know all the answers, but that I am here to discover and share better perspective with others. I'm here to help others reach their goals. So I don't have to know all the answers. I just have to know a better way than what's maybe has them trapped right then. And same thing in my life. I don't have to know all the answers as how something's turning out. But I do have very incredible, strong confidence that I have the tools and the wisdom and the perspective and the grace from God to take whatever comes my way in life and then get to watch in awe as God makes it all good. And I get to be an active participant. All right. So let's wrap this thing up. When one of the most powerful tools that you can use in your life whenever you're feeling stuck in your present is to rewrite your story, either to rewrite your story of the past that's having you stuck in the present, or rewrite your story of the future so it's bright instead of bleak. And then I shared 3 steps that you can do to rewrite your story. Turn flaws into features, turn mistakes into moments, develop a deeper perspective, and write it as a better sequel. Okay. But whatever you do in the rewriting of your story, you will literally become, instead of a passive participant in your life, you'll become an active participant. You'll become the main character again. And that is what will have you living your life with enthusiasm. And living your life with enthusiasm will always invite a better life to you. For sure. Because enthusiasm means in it comes from the word in theos, in God. It's like we are approaching our temporary life with the energy of God, the energy that God would desire, that God would fill us with. Enthusiasm. I hope this helps you rewrite your story so that you can better approach your life with the enthusiasm that it deserves. All right, that's all I've got for you this week. I will talk to you next week. Bye bye.